So it's time to wrap up my Whole30 experience. So I'm going to summarize what I'm going to talk about in this video. Also, I already shot this part, but the beginning and the end got lost. So you'll see me here at the beginning, then in the middle it's going to change, and then at the end I'll be back to tell you about my final results and to wrap up the video. So I finished the Whole30 the day before, well actually I finished it Thanksgiving Day. The day before Thanksgiving was my last day, however you want to say that. So I did it for 24 or 25 days, and I had planned to do it that way since the beginning. And in this video I'll be talking about my overall experience, any changes that I saw in myself during the 20 however many days, my symptoms, my final thoughts, final results, improvements, what I learned, pros and cons. Okay? So, firstly, looking here at my checklist, I kept track of how I was feeling day to day, and I've been updating you guys about that through my first week, second week, third week. So overall, I did not see a great improvement of my mood, sleep, energy, so on and so forth, that a lot of people see improvements on. That does not mean that you would not experience that or that anybody else is not experiencing that. Just for me, I didn't see any real differences. My sleep was up and down. Some days I slept great, others I didn't. I think that's more stress related and sleep hygiene related, which means kind of the things that you do before sleep to get yourself ready to go to sleep. My mood was up and down. I did see a little bit of an increase in my ability to concentrate and kind of think clearly. So that might have to do with the diet, or it might be just because I wasn't preoccupied with eating all the time that it freed my brain up to worry about other things. My cravings and appetite were the thing that improved the most, and that is that my cravings were next to nothing and my appetite was low. I think that is as much to do with cutting the sugar out and the other stuff out so I wasn't constantly craving those things, and also because I knew the next time that I ate I wasn't really going to enjoy it like the way I enjoy those junk foods. So, and I knew kind of what I was going to eat and I wasn't excited about it, so therefore I wasn't having the appetite for it, if that makes any sense. But whatever it is, I mean, that made it a doable experience for me, because if I had the same cravings and appetite, I don't think there would have been any way that I would have been able to complete it. But the first few days that got me kind of into the Whole30 thing, I was able to do pretty easily, and then by the time I got over that kind of hurdle, my body was just ready to take over and decrease my cravings and appetite. Energy I already talked about, and that's about it. So that's kind of my results of kind of the changes I saw in myself during the Whole30 or whatever, and how I felt about it. So now I'm going to talk about what I learned. I'm looking at my notes down here. Most of this I captured the other day, so I'm just going to record this first part here. And so I did learn a lot of things, and I gained a lot of kind of knowledge about myself and about the Whole30. So I'm going to start with that my sugar cravings diminish when I don't eat sugar, carbs, or artificial sugar. I'm not sure if I had heard this before, that if it was something that I had knowledge of, that if you cut that stuff out then you'll kind of stop wanting it as much, but it was definitely the case like I just talked about. So if you're like me and you have like a horrible kind of addiction to sugar and carbs, even though your first couple days may be rough, I would definitely give it a try, either on a long-term basis or maybe like do the Whole30 on a short-term basis, because if you're anything like me, you will not feel the same amount of like appetite for those kinds of things if you try it. So now on to the rest of the things I've learned and gained in the video that I already recorded. Also, not snacking really was a good thing for me, because that way I was less focused on eating all the time. So even when I try to eat healthy and I try to eat 5 or 6 little small meals a day, I'm still then just always eating. So when I'm not doing good and I'm, you know, turning to the junk food, I'm still eating all the time, which makes it worse than just eating 3 times a day. So that's one thing that was way different for me. Number 2, I can stick to a plan if the boundaries and goals are clear. This is one thing I'm going to talk about in the pros of this diet, which it is very easy to follow because you kind of know exactly what you're allowed to eat and what you're not. So that was very easy for me. It took the guessing out of it, or like, oh, well, I'll just have 1 piece of pizza, and then 1 piece of pizza turns into 4, or whatever the case. Steering clear of those things really made it easy for me. One thing I wish that I had done before was I wish that I had made a 30-day meal plan with recipes and a weekly shopping list before I started. I just kind of wanted to dive head first because I give myself analysis paralysis, and if I want to do something, usually I will think it to death and then procrastinate and put a lot of work into it and then never do it. So I guess that's the reason why I just kind of dove into it. But in hindsight, my life would have been a lot easier if I had done my homework beforehand and really sat down, devoted a good chunk of time, you know, a couple hours or something, and really wrote down like 2 breakfast ideas for the first week, 2 for the second, 2 for the third. I think that would have been good because I could alternate back and forth between breakfasts. Also lunches, if I would have just done 2 recipes for lunch the first week and then 2 more. So then you're talking about like maybe 8 to 10 breakfast recipes, 8 to 10 lunch recipes, and then maybe you could have done I could have done a 2-week rotation on dinners. So I could have had 14 dinners for the first 2 weeks and then recycled those and then done the same 14 over again, if you understand what I'm saying. So then we're talking about maybe 28 to 30 dinner recipes. Printed out the recipes. If you add it to an app or a website like Pepper Plate, you can add the ingredients from the recipes right to your shopping list, and then I would have been able to, you know, do an easily weekly shopping trip. So anyway, that's something I wish that I had done, and something that I recommend that you do if you're interested in doing the Whole30. Number whatever it is. Sometimes eating clean is quicker and easier than not, and sometimes it's not. So what I mean by that is, you know, I could have easily grabbed any vegetable or any fruit, cut it up, and, you know, depending on the vegetable, just sat down and eaten it that way, or just saute the vegetable, or just throw it in the microwave. A lot of vegetables that you may not even know you can microwave. You can steam them, you can bake them like sweet potatoes in the microwave, and so on. And sometimes it's not. Sometimes it takes a lot more work because you have to do a lot more cooking instead of just grabbing some chicken nuggets and popping them into the microwave for 2 minutes. You know, you might spend half an hour cooking every day. So that's another thing that goes hand in hand with the meal planning would be meal prepping for me, which I did incorporate a little bit, which was I would make a frittata and then it would last me 3 days for breakfast. And then I'd make another frittata and then it'd last me 3 days for breakfast. And that was an absolute sanity saver, because if I hadn't been able to do that, then I would have been cooking every breakfast, every lunch, and every dinner every day, and that would have gotten really tiresome. Some other things that I learned. I can survive on 3 meals a day. And like I said, it was easy because I would eat pretty much as I wanted. I would have a big plate of vegetables and meat and, you know, olives or nuts or avocado, and I would eat until I was full, and then I would stop, and then I really wouldn't be hungry again until the next meal time, and sometimes even then I wasn't even hungry. As I talked about in my last video, I think that is maybe as much to do with the program and just the food not giving me cravings and really filling me up, as it was not really looking forward to eating, because I knew I wasn't like going to be excited about eating whatever I was eating. So since the excitement was gone, there was no use in me thinking about it or really wanting to eat anything, if that makes any sense. Another thing I learned, I can break bad habits. Diving into the Whole30 was pretty easy for me, but as the second and third week progressed, I started to kind of get sick of it all, and I just really wanted to just go back to normal, but I did stick with it. I can defeat temptation. I had a lot of temptation around me all the time, because my family continued to eat normally, so there was chips and candy and cookies and ice cream and everything around me. But I could ignore it, and so I just really feel like that was just a great thing for me to experience, that I could defeat this. And I think a part of that too is knowing that I only had to stick to it for 25 days or 30 days or whatever is your case, but I only had to stick to it for 25 days, and so I just kept telling myself that, you know, that chips and salsa, I can have that when I'm done. Oh, cupcakes, I can have that when I'm done. So I was able to kind of push it off that way. When I'm in my normal everyday dieting, it's really hard to say, oh, I can have that blah blah blah, or I can have that blah blah blah. I've heard a lot of people that have tried to lose weight, you know, say just push it off till tomorrow, and then tomorrow just push it off till the next day. So maybe that might work also for some people. Another thing I learned is when I eat less often and have a plan, I think less about food. I already talked about that. I can survive comfortably without sugar or chocolate. So I have like a sugar addiction. Chocolate I eat like every day normally, even when I'm dieting. I have to have that treat. So knowing that I survived comfortably for 25 days without any added sugar and any artificial sugar, no chocolate, nothing, for 25 days, it's most definitely the longest I've ever gone. And I was fine. I survived. I can survive comfortably without snacking. I already talked about that. And I can survive comfortably without eating out. I did eat out once a week. I got Chipotle. And other than that, I did not eat out at all. So now on to the cons, in my opinion, of the Whole30. All the planning that's needed. When you're just doing a regular calorie restricted diet, you can usually eat whatever you want just as long as it's within your calories, which doesn't take a whole lot of planning. With the Whole30, you have to plan, you have to cook. It does get quite boring, in my opinion, because I wasn't willing to do like crazy complicated recipes. Maybe it could have been more exciting that way, but I just didn't have the time to do all that. It's very restrictive, and but I didn't really miss the other foods though. Like I said, especially at first. I mean, I really never missed bread. I really never missed cheese. It's really hard to explain, because even now looking back, I'm like, wow, I can't believe that I didn't miss those foods, but I really didn't. I mean, I did kind of miss the sugary stuff, I'm not gonna lie, especially, like I said, getting into the second and third week, but I never really missed like the carbs or whatever. So it is very restrictive. It's very difficult to eat out, but that could also be a pro, because if you know you can't eat out, then there's really no cheating and you just always eat at home. And the first few days really sucked because I was so tired, and I did have some intestinal distress like that first week. And then personally, I did not have any energy boosts. I talked about that. I didn't really have any like outward physical improvements, I guess you would say. Like, I didn't feel like my skin looked better or slept better, you know, all those kinds of things. I just didn't. Now the pros, I didn't spend any more money on groceries. I go shopping once a week, and I spent pretty much exactly the same amount that I always do, whether I'm eating normally or on this diet. So I thought that that was really interesting, because I always thought that you know, eating better would cost more, and in a sense it probably does if you're eating as often. Like if you're eating 5 or 6 times a day, maybe it would cost more, but since I was only eating 3 times a day, it evened out. There's no calorie counting or calorie tracking or weighing or anything like that, so it's really kind of no-brainer in that sense. There's no measuring. It's very easy to understand, and it eradicated my sugar cravings, I told you. And like I said, one of the things I thought was really great about this diet for me is that it was so black and white. I'm a very black and white thinker, all or nothing thinker. So to have something that's like, you can have this stuff and you cannot have that, I recorded the other day, and I'm going to finish it up with the last bit of cons that, I'm sorry, not cons, pros that I had for the Whole30. And those are that I had decreased food obsession, thinking, craving, blah, blah, blah. So that's definitely a pro, and I already talked about that earlier in the video. That you don't need anything special to do this diet. Yes, there are special foods that you need, but really they're whole foods that you can find almost anywhere. You don't need any kind of special scale or measuring cups or bowls or some kind of like, I didn't even read the book. I barely looked at the website. Like I said, it's very black and white on what you can have, and you just don't need anything special or a whole lot of information, really. It's best if you read the book. Of course, knowledge is power, but you don't need to do that. You don't need anything special. And of course, the biggest thing for me, which I already talked about multiple times probably in this video, is the appetite decrease. And so much that at times I would forget to eat, even when I was only eating 3 times a day. So those are definite big time pros for the Whole30 diet for me. And that is it. Now, on to my final results, my weight loss results. I did take measurements before I started, but I had to get a new phone, and I didn't get the information transferred over. So anyway, I kind of lost those measurements, but I did weigh myself beforehand. I was 208.8. If you recall, if you watched the other videos, I wanted to lose at least 5 pounds. I would have been ecstatic with getting below 200, and I actually lost 11 pounds. So I started out at 208.8, I made it down to 197.8, so 11 pounds lost, and I really could not be happier. I really think that if I had not been snacking at all, so if I cut out the Larabars, the almond butter and apples, or almond butter and bananas, just don't even go there, then I would have lost more. And if I would have gone the Whole30 instead of 24-25, I think I probably could have lost between 3 to 5 more pounds. So that's awesome. In 4 weeks to lose, you know, between 10 and 15 pounds, that's awesome. And I did not work out at all. I think I went to the gym like 1 time, because I mostly just didn't have the energy, and I got really busy around here with the holidays coming up and everything. But anyway, if you exercise, that's even going to be better, because obviously we're talking about calories in, calories out. If you do work out, I did want to say that the one of the parts that I did see on the website, which is called like the meal planning or meal prepping or some kind of worksheet that you can print off the website, does talk about if you work out, you are allowed to have a pre-workout meal and a post-workout meal. Well, that's going to pretty much negate the calories that you're burning during your workout, but you're already in a calorie deficit probably anyway. So that's kind of up to you if you feel like you need that or not. I think a lot of this diet is about getting more in tune with yourself and your appetite and listening to your body. So if you really feel like you need a pick-me-up after your workout, or you feel like you really want to eat some protein after your workout, or you need a little boost of energy before you go work out, and that's up to you and your discretion. And I think you're still probably gonna lose a good amount of weight. Again, I don't think that that's why the creators created this diet. It was really to reboot your system, teach people how to eat whole foods, teach people that the other foods that you're eating maybe aren't good for you, and then to slowly reintroduce those foods so that you can really see how dairy is affecting you, how's gluten affecting you, how's sugar affecting your body. So it's kind of like a detox thing and then a reintroduction thing. I did not do any kind of slow reintroduction. I just went all in on Thanksgiving. And I really haven't been doing that great since, to tell you the truth. But I haven't weighed myself, and I'm hoping to get myself back on track this week and get my butt back in the gym. So those are my final thoughts on the Whole30. Thank you guys for watching my video. If you have any questions on the Whole30, please pick up their book. I think it begins with food, or it starts with food, or something like that, or the Whole30.com, I think it is. And you can learn any and everything that you want to know. There's lots of stuff on Pinterest about it. If you have any questions for me, please leave it down below, and please like the video, subscribe, and I will talk to you later. Bye.